Welcome back to Nobody's Madness. I'm your host, Nobody. Today we'll be talking about the vibratory formula. This is where most people that seem interested in psi work tend to lose interest really fast. The basics of vibratory formula are simple. It's mostly just making an intonation or singing what you're doing. It's not quite correct, but it's very similar to singing. This makes a lot of people very uncomfortable, especially people that don't like to speak in front of other people or to hum or so this awkwardness is natural. It's kind of a sign that you're doing something that's different. Every time we try to do something or start doing something new, there's usually a moment of feeling very awkward about it, and that awkwardness continues until we adapt and get used to doing it. So it's not really something new if you don't feel this moment of awkwardness or strangeness. It's very alien, and even though we hear music and everything every day, it's akin to chanting, and a lot of people find that to be really, really weird. And if you can get over this step, you'll have made it farther than most people that have come before you. So the basic principle is to vibrate the words that you're speaking, and this increases the vibration of the energy around you. There's a little more to it than that. It functions as a sort of trick at first, and that trick is we use the vocalization to create a resonance, similar to when you play a note on one instrument, a string on another instrument starts to vibrate with it. So at first it's just going to be your voice. That's all it's going to be, is just like when you talk or do anything else, it's just going to be that sound of the vocal cords. But over time, as you let yourself go and give up the external reality, give up what's going on around you, and just focus on that vibration, that intonation, and ideas. We'll get into symbolism a little bit more because they all overlap. So hopefully you've been working on the awareness of energy, and ideally you should find that as you start to use the vibratory formula, that your sensation, awareness, and generation of the energy that you've been working with, hopefully, increases dramatically. So usually on top of learning the vibratory formula, people are also learning strange words to vibrate. Oftentimes it's Hebrew, sometimes it's Enochian, sometimes it's some other secret language or lost language or magical language. So in order to ease things in so that you don't feel so awkward about vibrating a word that you don't know or sounds weird to say, a lot of people, when they try to speak in a different language, it's also very awkward and alien. Why? Because they don't say things the way that we do. And Americans especially are very lazy in general with learning different languages and how to pronounce and speak them. Hence words like nunchaku or numchuck. It should be nunchaku. But you have to put yourself into a different state of mind in order to pronounce such words correctly. And we as Americans tend to be lazy with that. And part of that is because of the awkwardness, and we don't overcome that awkwardness. We want to keep it in our comfort zone, so we pronounce things the way that we want to pronounce them. So we'll skip that section. We'll skip the alien language or uncomfortable new language, and I just want to focus on the actual vibratory formula in and of itself. And I've had quite a bit of success with this, and to some extent more so than I've had with using words, intoning to certain areas, because you can kind of let yourself go a little more with it. That being said, the words definitely produce a symbolism and a different result, but for just nonchalant meditation techniques, I've found this method to be very helpful. And I'll focus a little bit more on this method and its importance later on, but we're going to call it's what I call a neutral tone. So we're just going to focus on creating a neutral tone, and this little exercise will go a long way later on just being relaxed and letting yourself go with the circumstances, go with the energy, go with the flow of your own being as opposed to against it. A lot of us are against ourselves and we don't realize it, and this may show you how difficult it is to just go with being yourself. So the neutral tone is something that I stumbled on looking at all the different vibrations that are out there, and I'll get more into the different tuning forks and stuff that I was researching, but vibration to me plays a very important role in the whole psi work and this whole science that is been developed. And so the neutral tone, everybody has a specific voice. It's a signature. It's the equivalent of a fingerprint. And this, to me, seems extremely important, that every one of us is an individual, every one of us is unique, and every one of us has a unique voice. So there has to be something important about that. So I started working on what I call the neutral tone, and the idea that our voices change depending on the circumstances. You know, we want to be seductive, so maybe we get a little deeper and, you know, slow it down a little bit. When we get excited, our pitch increases, it gets elevated, and we get all hyper and blah, blah, blah. So there must be something to this, and so I started looking into just the natural sound of our voice at any given moment. And what I want to cultivate with that is the neutral tone. And basically you're just going to take a deep breath. Hopefully you've been practicing your breathing exercises as well. You're just going to take that deep breath and hum. And hopefully the animals in the house don't go nuts about it, because sometimes they will. So basically, and part of this too stems from the fact that I have, you know, back problems and back injuries and stuff like that. So there's a lot of times that I feel really grounded, really in my body. And at those points when I'm experiencing pain, I will grunt or groan, and it's a very deep sense. Neff. Hey. Over here. Come on. Over here. Good. Come here. Down. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. Anyways. So I would grunt and groan, and it's very deep and earthy sounding. It's a much lower vibration than how I normally speak. You know, something along those lines. So I started thinking that you know, the closer we are to our physical being, the deeper the sound, and the higher awareness we are of everything that's going on around us and those energies, the higher the pitch goes. So I did some experiments with this, but that'll be the next episode regarding how important that is. But it led me to this idea of the neutral tone. And so if you can just relax and exhale and just let your body make the noise that it wants to make, you'll find this neutral tone. And it may change, it may not always be the same, but if you can just let yourself vibrate at that neutral tone, and then if you want, you can focus on the energy that you've been that energy sense that you've been developing, focus it in your finger, or maybe you found your chakras, but you can just let that vibration happen. And what happens is that sound goes out, and it's exciting the air. It's making all kinds of changes in our environment that we overlook, neglect, fail to think about, don't want to think about, or whatever. But it has a definite impact on the environment around us. Eventually, as we let our awareness go of that external portion, and we focus on that energetic sensation, that internal portion, we'll start to not just vibrate the world around us, we'll also start to vibrate our pure energy body, our psi energy. And that's the true nature of the vibratory formula, is to use the external voice making or sound making technology that we have, i.e. our throats, our vocal cords, etc., and use that to trigger a resonance with our energy body. And eventually what happens is you can get rid of the vocalization. Yeah, well said. You can get rid of the vocalization and actually make the energy vibrate and expand without the actual vocalization. However, I have found that despite being able to do that, it is more powerful when you add the vocalization, because not only are you getting that personal soul resonance, that personal energy signature resonance, you're also getting the external environment to start to vibrate with you in tune with what you're doing. And this has a profound effect not only on your environment and getting it to harmonize with you, but also with other people. Once you get your energy vibrating, other people will definitely notice that. So you want to inhale as deeply as possible, and as you're exhaling, it's almost like a groan. And those of you familiar with groaning from physical pain, you'll find this might be a little bit easier than people that are more comfortable and have a more pleasant experience of life physically. But it's really not a difficult thing to do, and especially if you inhale deeper than you feel like you can, that air is going to forcefully exhale and just naturally vibrate your vocal cords. So inhale. I know. She gets very worked up over it. And I developed an exercise called 30 breaths. I don't have my prayer beads that I usually use to keep track of it. It's Labradorite beads, and the number is 31. And when you cycle from the one larger bead all the way around to the last one, it equals 32, which is similar to the Tree of Life, the number of paths and sephira on the Tree of Life. So that's why I do 32 breaths. But you do that 32 times, and it just letting yourself flow with it, and you'll find that you enter a very, I guess it's not definite, you'll have to do your own experimentation, but it can lead to a very relaxed, energetic awareness state. And from there you can go on to do a lot more works. And honestly, with things like Raja Yoga that are focused on breathing in order to achieve this higher state, it may be enough for one to achieve enlightenment or a higher level of perceiving reality. So that alone is enough for somebody to devote a lifetime of work to just achieve that energetic vibratory state where they're relaxed and they start to lose awareness of their surrounding environment. Again, with the vibratory formula and the importance of vibration, there's a lot of tales of singing. There's one in the Philippines, I believe it is, where two wizards sang these giant stones into place, and they're obsidian blocks that are just so massive that it's difficult to comprehend how an ancient culture could have moved them. It's on par or even more difficult to figure out than the mystery of the giant blocks of the pyramids in Egypt. There's also a modern day version of that. It's called the Coral Castle, which is very interesting. It's down in Florida, and one man created this castle out of giant coral blocks and set them up in such a way that they're on hinges and can open and close. And somebody may have debunked the scenario at the by this time, but from what I've read and researched, it does not appear that modern scientists can figure out how one guy did it. And he created it, and then oddly enough, because of some property rights or something like that, he by himself moved it to another location, which is very extraordinary. And he says that he was singing the blocks into place. Now, this seems really far-fetched, but it does emphasize, that there is usually to myths like that, there's an ounce of truth or an ounce of significance. And I mention it, one, do your own, to something to look into, but two, that it just shows that there may be something more to the whole vibratory formula and what it's capable of. Now, another thing to note too is the blending. So I kind of, this is something that I still need to theorize, or not theorize, but experiment a bit more with. But one individual can create one set of vibrations, and each individual is limited to that type of, to their own vibratory scale. But similar to beat noises, to binaural beats, which is two overlapping vibrations that create a third one because of the difference between the two frequencies. I think that when two people start to vibrate and work together, that their ability to create different frequencies may become unlimited, or at least expands the range at which people can work with their vibrations, or with this particular formula. So these are things to consider, but the most important is to get your entire body to resonate and to vibrate, and using your external vocalizations, using this method helps to get your entire energy being to vibrate in harmony. And thus far, everything's been about lining up purpose, and the vibration formula, the vibratory formula, can help us to line ourselves up by making our entire being into one harmonized vibration. So that's it for the vibratory formula for now. Next episode, I think I'm going to get into an experiment that may be helpful. So thanks for watching, as always.